I had ascended the physical plane, a realm of flesh and substance, beyond the astral, the realm of emotion, energy, and spirit, past plane after plane until I found myself transcended through the dark gateway which I had opened. I gazed upon the source of creation, the plane of extroverted soul, my observation being altered by the forces beyond calling me. The truth of realization washed over me, the horrifying truth of reality penetrated my being, the veil of reality torn apart from the fabric of formation, revealing that which can never normally be beholdable. In the infinite quake, I could see the birth and the death of existence, and all moments in between as a tunneling singularity, burning into my being the light of existence, and the sound of the source crying out its song of formation. I was in the center of a conglomerate amalgamation of divinity, which was encompassed by a screaming, horrifying void, and yet contained in the darkness. I could see them. There, right there. The souls of the lost and the damned, frenzied apparitions of an infinite ocean of demons, devils, and dark dungeons in the river of blackness. The seemingly infinite current reached a condensification, where it met some sort of invisible and yet detectable rim, a tear in the fabric of subsistence. This was an opening into what seemed like something which was beyond the void, beyond source, beyond all of existence. I turned back at my existence I was a part of, and the truth of everything was so clear. A heavy nihilism burned into me. There is no God, no creator, no eternal loving architect of existence, no casual agents which had aligned reality and set things into motion. There was just source, and all that was, which seemed pretty insignificant with the horrifying, overwhelming black sea which surrounded it. I was pulled through the rift, torn away from regular observation into a place indescribable, a realm or a place of non-existence, a darkness beyond darkness, a paradoxical world in which chaos and madness reign supreme, an infinite mass of nightmare sculptures of abominable beings unlike anything I can describe, octopi, dragon, whale, and alien crossed with leviathans and behemoth, every grotesque devil's archetypal features superimposed upon this unending beast entangled in an infinite web which appears as this sporadic chaos, unrelenting and savage, yet intelligently supreme. A host of hollowness, rising like a tsunami of ancient incomprehensible monsters, causing my soul and my being to freeze. I could gain no release of an unnerving strangulation of my spirit and my mind in the midst of this sheer insanity. I then came to the realization that this Antiverse screamed in protest against the sin which was existence. Existence was this freak accident that neither existence nor non-existence could understand nor fathom. The infinite nothingness which was populated by these ungodly abominations, they devoured themselves and recreated themselves from the feces and remnants of this horrendous cannibalization, this feast of one another. Instead of dying and perishing, the remnants stuck together as if glued to one another to form a singular beast of the swarm of this infinite hive. Its singular eye gazed into my soul. It was akin to the kaleidoscope of madness, infinite fluctuations of a geometry unexplainable, not mathematical nor sacred, and a casual geometry, vibrating with the definite silence of the primordial ooze of this ancient void. My heart died and my being was froze. I was convinced I was dying, not my body, nor my spirit, for that felt like it was ripped and torn into infinite fragments in my initial immersion. The undying eternal awareness of that which I truly was started bleeding out as if I was about to spontaneously combust. I wanted to die, or better yet, I wanted to not exist at all, for in that moment, all was a lie. Purpose was meaningless, and all was madness, chaos, and monstrous things only reigned singularly supreme. If there was a God, this was the monsters that were hidden and suppressed within his omniscient mind. If there was no creator, no eternal love of salvation within this place, and yet this place is not a place and it's also not a state, there was no space and nothing made sense. Complex knots of paradoxes interlocking upon each other, the sheer delirium caused me to not want to know anything anymore, and nothing made sense. Nothing. I sought out a truth and I wish I never did. I opened a gate which in that moment I thought maybe I should have never opened. In that moment my life and all incarnations had flashed before my eyes and was but a grain of sand, inconsequential to the gravity of this maze of iniquitous intent which I was cemented in, as the transfer of knowledge of the host of the ancient nothingness was ingrained through every fibre of my being, an unspoken communication downloaded into me like a boundless mythos and story. For what seemed like an eternity flashed through me in a matter of seconds. I no longer could be horrified nor relieved, only mesmerized by the inconceivable complexity of the eye of the maddening beast. I saw it a whole other way. This profanity was divine, this unholiness sacred, this devilish truth was an eternal beauty. There was no distinguishing line between order and defilement. There just was that which is indescribable, unknowable, unobtainable, unspeakable nothingness, which took on the form which can only be described as something. My mind now accustomed after its purging through the many levels of hysteria and insanity, finally I gazed upon the majesty of that which made every magical or spiritual experience I ever had seem like mere child's play. This wasn't a fantasy. If anything, it was a deranged dream from which I could not wake up. I reached out my hands seeking to know the unknowable, to obtain an understanding of the unobtainable, a strange sensation of kinship established between me and it, yet a fear of being consumed in its might. No god, no angel, no demon, no being I have ever seen could be compared to a fraction of what was before me. As a matter of fact, there was no above, no below, no before me. There was no within, no without. The overwhelming shock and the overwhelming paradoxes drove me into a mental invegetation, unable to think, feel, sense, or even become aware anymore. I was either dead, asleep, or gone for what felt like hours before I finally returned to the darkness and dampness of the ice-cold temple. Hands shaking, gripping my hair, rocking back and forth, awakening to a maddening realization. I tried to convince myself it wasn't real, a figment of yearning for something more maybe, just a figment of imagination. Yet it haunted my memories, my mornings, evenings and nights. It jolted me awake for weeks on end, unable to even make love to my wife due to the impressions and the experience being scarred in my mind. I felt it calling to me, urging me to go back, and there was more to do. I couldn't resist any longer. Month of sleep deprivation and my malnourished being, I became obsessed with an unexplored, untapped potential current. The unknown has always been horrifying to some, but to me, it was addictive. The critical mass building around me, stimulated by a thirst for knowledge and a childlike curiosity. Yet something else acted as a guiding force, moving me back into the abysmal depths of the paradoxical place. I fortified my being, solidified and prepared every aspect of myself. If I were to die or be devoured by these forces, so be it. It must be explored. This is uncharted territory, for what was once horror is now an obsession, plaguing me each and every sleeping and waking moment. I can feel the incoherent, a casual emergence, seeking to commune in a disorderly fashion, the words translating through the labyrinths of my psyche into the words which were finite yet understandable, allowing me to digest a fractal of what I needed to know. The beasts now await me, and I saw glyphs haunting my rituals and crimson burning brands enveloping my vision. 6 to 8 months of channelings after glyph, and the symbols as a whole. Diving deeply into the matrix embedded into each symbol, it was a ritual circle, and yet a gateway to which one could travel, and they could travel here. Yet the glyphs around the circumference of the circle were tools, weapons, and functional sorcerous glyphs, an arsenal limitless in terms of magical capability. My mind had to take its time digesting the glyphs, hence several months just to decipher each one and their nature. The gateway was opened. A fiery crimson burning vortex awakened, and in its center a devouring blackness as if a black hole was swallowing all the celestial light and formation. The noises prevailed, yet again, echoing through the gate. My hair stood to attention. Energies became anxious before my spirit took flight. I would project there again, and start my journey, sacrificing whatever must be placed upon this altar, to know of these beasts.